every cowardly liberal who sheds tears for Charlie Kirk and tells you that everything's going to be okay if you just vote harder and basically don't say anything mean about them. All right, they're really mad. Don't say anything mean about them. Okay. Well, that person was literally just calling like a black person the N-word. Yeah, don't call them a racist. Don't call them a bigot. But they are. I'm not saying this in some way to dehumanize them. They are dehumanizing people actively right now. This is a descriptive term. If someone tells you that person has been racist or doing racism or in the act of dehumanizing other human beings, you can't call them someone who's doing that? I can't even say that anymore? No, because if you do that, that's calling to violence, and that's what led to Charlie Kirk's assassination, so you can't do that. You're not allowed to say that anymore online. No. The violence from Robinson's street thugs was significant, openly clashing with police, throwing bottles and flares, and more. There should have been far more into the 9 arrests, but of course Robinson's supporters aren't pensioners with Palestine flags, so the mass of those guilty of violent disorder live to fight another day, because yeah, the cops are not fucking... You got fascist on fascist violence, right? The same thing happened with January 6th, like... You know, yes, there eventually was arrests and then pardons, so yeah, do as you wish apparently is the message there. The bottom line is this: we have to turn the tide on the far right radicalization happening in Britain, and with foreign billionaires backing them, and it's not going to be easy. We will have to do things differently and be different to mobilize the anti-racist majority in Britain, but doing nothing is not an option. I totally agree, but this playbook, which is working everywhere right now, is the same one. And I keep trying to point it out, but the fucking problem is that liberals don't want to accept it. Liberals want to just return everything to a status quo and be like, oh, we can undo some of the damage the far right does every now and then, but we can get things back to neoliberalism. Neoliberalism is part of the problem. Vast wealth inequality is part of the problem. You have let things get out of control. Things have gotten so bad that, yeah, there is massive youth unemployment. That massive youth unemployment combined with the social media addiction is obviously leading to a lot of people looking for purpose. The same thing will be brought up when we're going to talk about Charlie Kirk's shooter, because yes, well, you can't directly point the ideology in one direction or another with all these hyper-ironic internet memes. If you look deeper, you'll find that these internet memes are representative of hyper-online insular communities, in-groups and out-groups. You get it or you don't get it. You are either part of a Discord or a Reddit thread or a 4chan corner where everyone there gets the joke or gets the meme. That was part of the thing with the Pepes, and that thing continues until this day. And it doesn't even have to be far-right radicalization. You could be just a gamer who's hyper into one specific subculture. But when you spend all of your time online, or you spend a lot of your time online, when you're not online, it doesn't feel normal. You are addicted. We all are. And you get that feeling where you're like, oh, I gotta go back, and it's like, hey, can you just eat dinner and talk to me about your day? My day was fine. It was good. It was all right. Well, we have this hyper-nihilism online. We have these massive amounts of youth unemployment and loneliness. Yes, the loneliness epidemic, especially amongst young men, shouldn't be analyzed or looked at from a perspective of we need to coddle them. We must in all ways make sure that we take care of all the little baby boys who are lost, the lost boys and all that kind of stuff. It's that, what is this indicative of? Mass alienation. You could not ask for a bigger example of this. We have vast amounts of people who spend so much time online, who have no futures, who have no career prospects, who really look at the world as a dark and twisted place, because guess what? It is. It is a dark and twisted place being fucked over by the rich, being fucked over by multinational corporations. And this has been the way in a lot of the rest of the world, and no one wanted to care about this kind of shit because it was just exploiting the global south. When America, the West, all these countries, Canada included, were exploiting the global south and making everyone's life shit, hey, it didn't really matter to any of us because it was like, well, yeah, all that happens is they kind of devolve into these massive civil wars all the time. But that's because they're from backwards countries. And yeah, and they have the wrong culture. And because of that, they're all fighting each other. Why are they all fighting each other? Why is there constant turmoil? Why is there constant coups? Why is there constant military juntas? Why is there constant overtaking? Why are these vast amounts of young soldiers taking up arms and guns and shooting each other? And why is it consistently destabilized? I don't know. But what I do know is I like my cheap electronics. And so it's really cool that all these Canadian mining companies are in there extracting all of the resources to be able to make us these iPhones and these Switch 2s. Super fun stuff. Anyways, that'll never arrive here. Well, years and years and years of destroying unions, destroying worker cooperatives, destroying high wages, destroying protections for workers, all of this, mass amounts of vast concentrations of wealth into very, very few hands, total domination and control by all these social media and tech gurus. Look what happened. The same thing is starting to happen here, and we're starting to see destabilization, and we're starting to see a very large percentage of the population both unemployed, both hyper-addicted to online subcultures, and suddenly they're turning violent because all of them are getting this message that's resonating with them. Do you want to be proud? Do you want pride? Do you want a purpose in life? No one has been offering me that. No one's been offering me a purpose in life. What is the purpose? The purpose is taking back Britain for the British. Because you know who the problem is? The problem is non-white folks who are coming into our country. They are raping white women. They are taking our job and they're destroying society. Isn't that exciting that you're in a war? You're part of a war and you're a soldier. Don't you want to fight for your freedom? Wow, that's a lot of purpose out of nowhere. I can take pride in who I am. I've been lied to my whole life. I've been told as a young white kid who's lonely that it's not my fault, that it's all these other people's faults. And yeah, I've had a lot of trouble meeting people, but once I'm a soldier, I could be a hero. I'll join the battle. I'll hit the streets. Yeah. Wow, I'm surrounded by all these people who are telling me about how all the problem is radical immigration. All the problem is also, what's the other thing? Oh, sorry, trans people who are destroying the very concept of gender. They're taking away from us men what it was to be masculine. Oh my God, I've seen the photos of all these pride parades and all these trans people, and they all seem kind of joyous and happy, and that's because they're trying to destroy the very concept of what is a man and destroy us and take away our manliness. Oh my God, you were right all along. I see it all now for what it is. I am violent. I am radicalized, I will hit the streets. And what a surprise, you're getting not only 10,000, 20,000, 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 people hitting the streets of Britain for a fucking far-right rally. This keeps happening every single day that goes by. The right are going to continue to amplify it. That's what they're doing right now. Every single one of them is more than happy to keep throwing gasoline on the fascist fire. Because, yeah, I mean, the rich people behind a lot of this, it's good for them. It's good for business. Fascism secures capitalism. Any of you radicals on the other side who are trying to say that workers deserve rights, that they should be co-owners in the companies that they own, that people should actually have more wealth, that wealth should be redistributed towards the vast majority of the population because that makes society better and more healthy, well, that may be true. But at the end of the day, I want minds, and I want to maintain minds. So how do I do that? Well, all the very people who might be coming after me can come after each other. Make them fight each other. All of them. Yeah, no. This is not rich versus poor. This is immigrants versus non-immigrants. This is left versus right. This is straight people versus gay people. This is cis people versus, biological males versus trans folk. That's what this is. Fight each other. All of you. Fight each other. Fight each other. Poor people versus poor people. Beautiful. I love it. Poor white people versus poor white people. Beautiful. I love it. All of you fight each other. Fight each other. Just don't come after us. Don't come after the people with all the resources. No. Why would you do that? It's the immigrants. It's the immigrants. They don't speak the language. They took your jobs. Look at that. They have all the they're getting the houses, the homes. That may not be true, but don't look into it. You don't have to. You don't have to. You've got one of your pundits on the radio right now telling you this shit. Yeah. It's the Squid Games. It is in a lot of ways, in the sense that the rich are essentially sitting back and just, again, completely fine. Like, look at the story that came out related to Charlie Kirk and where it came out on. Was everyone aware that a lot of the newspapers suddenly, the Daily Mail, Sky News, the New York Post, they all have the same owner? They're all the same news conglomerate? Is that a surprise to you that every single one of them was starting to say, we got it, y'all. That shooter actually, okay, fine, he wasn't trans. We'll grant you that. We can't argue this one anymore. And sure, he wasn't an immigrant. Okay, fine. You got us there. Not an immigrant, not a trans person. He was a white guy from a MAGA family, but his roommate was trans. No, his lover. He had a trans lover. That's right. And they were indoctrinating them into the cult of ideology to leftism. It's all connected. And now you have your story. Go out there. Get out there and spread it. And wow, did you ever give yet another gift? It's one day, when they thought that the shooter was trans, because apparently trans ideology was written on one of the bullets. Turns out that wasn't the case. Turns out they just didn't understand an internet meme. But then it went to the bullets for trans. No, sorry, that one's wrong. Okay, it was a white guy. Shit. And then that one day, just one day only, where it was a white guy, suddenly everything was like, forceful. What we have here is a very talented individual. He had his whole life ahead of him. He was going to be able to again have a bright future. Came from a conservative Christian family of cops and preachers and military people, and then, unfortunately, he was indoctrinated. Yeah, yet another tragic case of an otherwise promising white kid who unfortunately had his life taken away from him from far leftist radicalization. And what we should be offering now are thoughts and prayers for the family, prayers, so many prayers. And then it's like the next day it's like, no, wait, apparently she was fucking a trans person. What? The trans? I knew it was trans people all along. Murder, blood, trans indoctrination. Trans people are responsible for all the violence in society. Trans people are responsible for everything that I've ever... Is there any evidence of any of this? Do we have evidence at all? The evidence so far, a TikTok video featuring a filter? No, there's more. Have you not seen? Look at the social media history, all right? His roommate was definitely trans because that person was going on to Reddit and made posts in some trans forums. Yeah, did you take a deeper look? Turns out some of those were Jordan Peterson forums. Some of those were like pro-capitalism forums. Some of those were misogynist forums. Again, this trail of clues, which is so tenuous at this point, isn't even directly connected to the shooter. This is the shooter's ex-roommate, whom you are claiming is both his lover and also his indoctrinator, or something to that effect. Once again, has a very difficult to discern political ideology by simply looking at his online Reddit posts, but it seems like they were a fan of Jordan Peterson. It seems like they also, in some of these posts, were posting racist and misogynistic stuff as well. Well, one of the posts is pro-Biden. Okay. Was it in a pro-Biden subreddit? It wasn't, but it was worded in a way that sounds pro-Biden. Oh God, New York Post is just running with that. Look at that, the headline. And they spelled Biden's name wrong. It says Biden. It's like trans roommate / lover, of which they had tons and tons of gay sex together, super gay, tons of gay shit going down. We're sure of it. Do you know what gay sex is? Okay, either way. Apparently was a strong Biden supporter. And now because he was a Biden supporter, that's proof that the trans ideology that comes from the cult of Biden was be able to infect him. What are we doing here? What are we fucking doing here? It's madness. It's absolute insanity. It's insanity to the point that people don't even care. Like, Grums admitted it out loud. You know what? It doesn't even matter what the shooter's ideology was. We're past that now. Now it's war. We're going to war. Okay, fucking forced milking, sexual assault, wrestling, porn ring, BDSM shit, fucking lord. Yeah, glad to hear that you are ready to take up arms. It seems like most of the right-wing pundits at this point are just willing to advocate for hardcore violence. And so far as it doesn't break the TOS of their precious little accounts, they don't want to lose the bag. That part is there as well. But every single one of them is like, act accordingly. You are at war. What are you going to do? I know what I'm going to do. I'm in the trenches. That's a World War I reference that Matt Walsh is making. You don't know because you haven't been in the trenches. I have battled, all right? We have fought in the beaches of Reddit. We have fought in the skies of Discord. We must never acquiesce. You know, all that kind of shit. And it's like, you guys aren't fucking soldiers. You're influencers. All of us are. We're influencers. And guess what? The left is not telling their fans to go buy guns and shoot people. This is absurd. We're telling you to go join a union, to form a worker cooperative, to build a community with other people, to increase the material power you have against the super rich because they are hoarding everything. To advocate for people, politicians who will represent those beliefs, who will say, let's free Palestine. Let's end all fucking endless wars and imperialism. Let's stop exploiting the global south for all their resources. That's what they're advocating for. Let's dismantle the military-industrial complex. Let's stop the U.S. from being the world's largest arms dealer. Let's do things that will improve humanity, the human race. Let's end all forms of inequality. Let's end all oppression. Let's end the hierarchies. Let's end racial hierarchies, gendered hierarchies, sexual hierarchies. That's the advocacy of the left. On the other side, you're calling for the extermination of all trans people. You're calling for the liquidation of the unhoused. You are calling for homeless people who don't have homes, who can't afford rent, who can't afford houses, to be forcibly euthanized. You are calling for the mass deportation or execution of every immigrant in the country. You are fascists by definition. This is fascism. And if I say that, it's that's advocating for violence. You can't say that anymore. Yeah, if you say that, that means that you want that's a form of violence. That's radical violence right there. You said fascism. Jesus Christ. If you let them do this and you believe it, or you acquiesce, as liberals seem to be fine doing right now, every cowardly liberal who sheds tears for Charlie Kirk and tells you that everything's going to be okay if you just vote harder and basically don't say anything mean about them. All right, they're really mad. Don't say anything mean about them. Okay. But that person was literally just calling like a black person the N-word. Yeah, don't call them a racist. Don't call them a bigot. But they are. I'm not saying this in some way to dehumanize them. They are dehumanizing people actively right now. This is a descriptive term. If someone tells you that person has been racist or doing racism or in the act of dehumanizing other human beings, you can't call them someone who's doing that? I can't even say that anymore? No, because if you do that, that's calling to violence, and that's what led to Charlie Kirk's assassination, so you can't do that. You're not allowed to say that anymore online. No. If you use Charlie Kirk's own words to demonstrate how he was an extremist, he wasn't an extremist, he was a moderate. But he wasn't a moderate. That would be a lie. If we do that, if we establish that, if we live in a world where now we've set a new bar that what Charlie Kirk was saying was considered moderate dialogue, the Overton window has shifted so far to the right that everything will become Nazi. You realize that. If that is considered the center, if those were centrist positions, that's what happens. That's how this all works. If you normalize what he was saying and rebrand him and his beliefs as moderate, what a disservice that does to every group you were pretending to stand up for all this time. Like, how the fuck are black people ever supposed to trust a single white person again who's like, I care about racism, if we're suddenly rebranding what Charlie Kirk was saying as normal, as moderate, as an average and normal position to have? It was not. These were extreme positions. If someone says to you they won't fly on a plane if the pilot is black, that is a fucking racist. That is a racist thing to believe. It is a racist thing to think that somehow a black person is less qualified to fly a plane because of their genetics. What is wrong with you? This stuff used to be seen as abhorrent. This used to be the shit that you would be like, wow, that is a race realist fucking thinking that IQ, black, all this shit. You would call that out instantly for what it was. Now we have to normalize it to think that that is suddenly moderate. Oh my God, what is wrong? This shit is dangerous. This will lead us to more violence. This will lead us to more marginalization, more wealth inequality. And again, all of this is being done to the fucking laughter of the ultra wealthy. That they're the ones who get to sit back and just fucking, wow, look at the chaos. Look at this. I say, from my mansion, from my tower, I just get to lord above it all and look at it all and be like, yeah, not coming after us. Not coming after my resources. I am secure. And you know what? Now that I have all this money and wealth and power, I'm going to invest it in more media and consolidated media. What's that? Paramount's buying CBS? Yep, sure it is. Guess what? Paramount's also saying that they're totally against the idea of all these people coming out against Israel, and you're not allowed to do that, and that's bad. And if you ever want to work for Paramount again, you can't be part of that collective, so none of you are allowed to do that. You're not allowed to go out, and you're not allowed to say that free Palestine. That's hate speech. Yeah, so you can't do that anymore. So we've consolidated. That's going to be what it is. We have all the power, and we get more power. It's wild. What do you think rich people do when they get money? Do you think they donate it, or do you think that they buy assets? Because they already have everything taken care of. I don't know if you know this, but if you're incredibly wealthy, you don't have to worry about paying rent. You don't have to worry about rent at all, in fact. You usually own the house that you live in. You don't have to worry about food. You pay a person to cook for you. You pay a person to clean for you. You don't worry about any of that shit. You don't even really have to think about money at all because you pay people to handle your cash. This is the club that you ain't in. None of us are in. The ultra wealthy, did you know that they have their own set of things they buy that you will never in your life buy, but it's just things only for them? There's entire industries that are set up to sell the ultra wealthy items, like fucking watches that cost as much as houses. It blows my mind. Why do you want to wear something on your wrist that's $250,000? I'll never comprehend that, but that's exclusively for that club, and that club hangs out with that club. That's how that all works. When you are in that tier, you hang out with other people who are in that tier, and because they don't want to collect your fucking Soylent Green garbage labubus, what they want to collect are super expensive $500,000 cars, super expensive $500,000 fucking watches. These are the things that they buy. They buy yachts that are sometimes $20 to $25 million. That's a market of only a couple million people in the world that can afford those things, but that's it. You only need to sell a couple of them and you make a fuck ton of money, and that's how the whole thing works. And those are what they buy and what they sell and what they deal with, and when they hang out with each other in the same way you might talk to your friends and be like, hey, by the way, did you get the new Switch 2? No, I can't afford it yet, dog. I know they're really expensive. I got one, but I really want to get that other game, the Donkey Kong Bonanza one, but I only right now have the Mario Kart World one, but one day they have those conversations about fucking, again, $1 million watches and $1 million cars and $1 million fucking trinkets, which are just so obscenely priced. But in that world of the extreme wealth, when one of those people gets money or has money, or like, because all their needs are taken care of, they invest it. They usually buy property. If you give a rich person $100,000, well, they don't need that to pay any expenses. They don't need that to pay bills. They don't need that to pay down credit card debt. What the fuck is debt? What the fuck is a credit card? They don't need to worry about that shit. They can just sit back and be like, oh, okay, well, property. I will put that into property. Why wouldn't I? That's going to be a very, very, good investment. In time, it'll go up. I can secure it. I can park it. I don't have to live there. It can remain empty, and then someone will not have the ability to live there. That's fine. But I can put it in there, and if I get more money, because I've made money, I put it into more property. And more property, which is going to increase the cost of all the housing in the world, and nothing is really going to solve that unless we address it, but it doesn't matter. I just keep on doing that. That's how the system works. And as long as they're doing that, they're also going to invest in other things. The more savvy among them, the ones who actually want to play as the masters of society, well, they're the ones who are going to be like, you know what? I want to buy media. All of it. I want to own all of the newspapers. I want to own all of the TV stations. I want to own all the theaters. I want to own all the streaming networks, and I want to own some of the online distribution centers for that kind of stuff. And while that was all going on, all these tech lords came up and they're like, you know what? I'm going to own the internet. And the internet used to be this free place, but now there's only about 5 companies that own all of it. They've secured that. You go to YouTube, or you go to Google, or you go to maybe Twitter if you really wanted to hurt yourself, or you go to one of these 5 websites, and most of them are just basically the same shit being regurgitated to you over and over and over because they've consolidated all of that. And in these worlds, it's where they're getting everybody to fight each other. And that doesn't mean that the people below it on the tier, the Matt Walshes of the world, he doesn't have to be worth $1 billion. He could be worth just 50 or 75 million. I have no idea how much he's worth. He's probably worth a lot more than I want to know. But he can be paid by people who are billionaires. Billionaires can fund the Daily Wire. Hundreds of millionaires can fund the Daily Wire, as long as the Daily Wire is pushing all of their agendas that they want. Downplay climate change, because that hurts business. We want to be able to keep doing climate change up until the end of society. So fuck that. Downplay climate change. Talk not about wealth inequality. Never mention wealth inequality. Say that that's just like something that losers talk about, the soy. Make sure that you always put the idea that if anyone is having a hard time, because there are concerns that everyone is going to have, right? There are general concerns, housing, wealth inequality, government surveillance. All these are problems that people do think about. So you have to address them, but we have substitutions for what really causes this, all right? So here's where you're going to put in things like liberal government exclusively, just libs, all right? Liberal government overreach, big government, that's the problem. That's the libs, not the right. The right doesn't do any of that. So that's the lib government for all those problems. For housing and jobs, immigrants are the cause of all those, so you push those out there. Immigrants cause the high cost of housing and the lower wages and no one having a job anymore. Those are immigrants for all that. Downfall of society type stuff. Trans people, we'll put trans people in for that, right? Because they're destroying the very idea of gender dynamics. They're ruining men. They're ruining the idea of masculinity. They're trying to take that away from you, so you substitute all that for that, and then just keep on pushing those. You just push those buttons every single day, and then when everyone is like, but it seems like we've kind of started really doing the oppressing trans people thing aggressively. We've done it through legislation. They're really suffering in the job market. They have half the median wealth of average Americans, so they're very poor. We've done that. Nearly half of all unhoused people in totality for youth are LGBTQ plus. So a lot of them are living on the streets. A lot of them are kicked out of their homes. A lot of them are suffering immensely. A lot of them, very high rates of reporting sexual abuse, physical abuse, and violence. So they're fucked. They're suffering. We did it. And it's not solving any of the problems, though. Is it now? Weird. Well, I don't know. We could go back to the gays. Because we used to do this all for the gays, right? Back in the day, that was the thing. So it was the gays who were causing all these problems, right? We used to lie about how they all had diseases and stuff like that, and then they were causing the downfall of society, and they were destroying the family unit. They were trying to break up the idea of man and woman and you know, rights and marriage and stuff like that. So that's what we used to say about the gays. So we could go back to that. We'll put the gays back on the docket. That they could be the cause of the downfall of what it is to be masculine and stuff. You know, every good husband would be a good husband had he not the temptation of the cock. So that's basically what making that falling apart too. So we'll put the gays back on, and then when that runs out, once we've oppressed them and then we've removed their ability to get married, we put them back in prison. They used to go to jail. Did you know that? Sodomy was legal. Yeah, and that's how we tried to catch them all, even though it turns out straight people do sodomy too. But never mind that. That's good sodomy. But the bad sodomy was when the gays did it. So we put them in. And then before that, we were literally chemically castrating them. We were just force feeding them chemicals so they wouldn't have any sexual desires and killing them through the process. So we were torturing them. We were doing all that. It turns out it didn't solve the problem. It turns out wealth inequality was still a thing. And it turns out the real ways that the United States had a robust and growing middle class was when, the left started to fight for mass unionization. And there was things like a New Deal that started to redistribute wealth because of the Great Depression, and then the huge unionization efforts and large amount of that, and that actually built up the robust middle class, making everything more affordable. Society functioned better economically. Huge taxation on the ultra wealthy. That was a thing too, right? Oh, wild. No, none of that. Fuck that. I don't want that. I don't like that. I want my stuff. I want to keep it all. As long as I can keep it, everyone will be fine.
Thank you so much for watching, everyone. This video wouldn't be at all possible without the financial support of all the people whose names you see on the screen right now. And if you want to unlock secret bonus episodes, content that we can't post anywhere else, or get the videos early before anyone else gets to see them, please go on to patreon.com/theserfs. For as little as $1, you can help support this channel and help make more videos like this possible. Our executive producers are Anna Loves Riley, Adrian McCarthy, Bobby Lasers, Cheryl Alvarez, Comrade Junkie, Doug Caddy, Everything Important, Garrett Sandoval, Hagbard Celine, Jimmy Sombrero, Multimondi, Omni, Political Papi, Preston Kroll, Quiet 185, Richard Boehm, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Cernicus, Stellar Gwyn, Sebastian Demel, Tigwick, Trav, and Words Greenwood. And also, it wouldn't be possible without all the names you see on the screen right now. Again, if you want to help produce this content, it's only made possible through the funding of our patrons.